Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is Shanti Hershenson. She is an author of sci-fi, fantasy, and poems. We're going to talk with her at 14. She has an amazing catalog of books already. It's a super cool story. You can find her at shantihershenson.com. We'll put that link in the show notes as well. If you're looking for Playful Humans, we're at playfulhumans.com, and you can take a quiz, find out what playful personality you have, or join the community and get other adults trying to rediscover the power of play and have some more fun, play for a living, all kinds of good stuff. Here we go.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Keep chasing the sunshine and go
One more woo-woo. Shanti, welcome to the podcast. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week is brought to you by colorblindness. I found out I was colorblind the other day. I did not see that coming at all. It came right out of the orange. Colorblindness. Okay, no, nothing on that one yet. I got a Pokemon joke for you. I kind of already blew it. Let's start that over. I got a joke for you, Shanti. How do you fit 5 Bulbasaurs and 2 Charizards onto a bus?
Not sure. How do you?
You Pokemon. Okay, there we go. We did get it done. Do you have any favorite jokes?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's jump into it and let's talk about your writing, because I found your prolificness amazing. So just start by telling everybody how you got started and how many books and poems you have now in the catalog.
So I've been interested in writing for pretty much as long as I can remember. I would look at books in the bookstore and I would be like, I want to do that. But I think it really started right in the middle of the pandemic. I was stuck at home. I had nothing to do. I was really bored. I was isolated. And I started writing a novel. And that novel was called Lock. And it was about alien invasion. And it was like the coolest thing I'd ever written. And a few months later, it grew so long that it was 250,000 words, 800 pages. And I have a printed version of this draft right here.
Holy cow.
And it was so just giant that even while cutting portions of the story, it was still too large to really be a novel that would sell. So what I ended up doing was I split it into 3 separate books. And these 2 are not the final versions, but this is the final version of the first book. And I published it last August.
That's awesome. And how did that process go? I imagine you had to get a certain amount of help to get a book like that out the door. I love the cover and artwork and everything. How long did that part take you, and how did you find help for all that?
I think the editing took longer than the actual writing. And that's what I find with the majority of my books, that the editing takes longer than the writing.
Yeah.
I for the first part of the book, I was like, I'm doing this on my own. I don't need help. And then I realized I can't do this on my own. This is too hard. So I have a writing coach now, and she helps me edit and sometimes shorten these books, because for the most part, at least the Lock books, they have really more longer sentences and really, really rich descriptions, which, is good in some ways. And it's also not, because it kind of drags down the book and it drags out the book. So, they really need to be shortened. Now I'm actually working on the book. I just started a few days ago, and I'm working on kind of shortening the sentences and making it this kind of quick, clean, concise thing. So that's actually better for a different style of writing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do a lot of self-help books and stuff where it helps to be really clear and concise and stuff. But I feel like I'm missing sometimes that really juicy description and storytelling stuff that would make it a lot more interesting. I tend to cut the interesting stories and parts and just say, oh, well, nobody wants to hear about this or anything. They want to get straight to the takeaways. But I don't think that's true. I think there's a place for both, and it depends on the style and what emotion and connections you're trying to make with people. it sounds like because you've done so much writing that this is something that's really fun for you. So I don't know how many 14-year-olds there are that like write, 3 or 4 novels just for fun. What is it about the writing process or the storytelling that gets you excited about it?
I think it's the concept of creating like these worlds and these characters. And I think I always get excited whenever I start a book, I usually write down, I don't outline my books, but I write down some things or tropes or events or even dialogue or characters that I want to appear and things I want to happen later on in the story. And that kind of motivates me to just keep going. And not to mention, I try to have something fun going on in my story. So I'm not just writing like build up for the entire time. And yeah, like just everything about it and just creating these worlds and these novels. And then of course, seeing them in like a printed version is so much fun.
So that's where I was going to go next is I feel like sometimes once you publish or you have to ship it or show somebody else, that can be the less fun part. I'm sure everybody has been very kind with their feedback and stuff, but even when you're expecting to sell some copies or something, sometimes it turns it into a job instead of just being for fun. So I know you've appeared on a bunch of podcasts over the last year. You have plans to do a lot more for promotion. When I wrote my first book, I said writing it was the starting line. A lot of people think that's the finish line, but having a manuscript is the beginning of this whole process that can take years of promotions and publications afterwards. How have you found that side of things?
I think it's definitely once you publish it to be the scariest. I'm very thankful to have a large enough platform on that TikTok actually that I usually have a lot of people, go and buy my books when they come out. But I am always so scared. I'm going to get a bad review and it's going to be really bad. What if it's the only one up there? And what if my book then has a 1-star average? Never actually had that happen. I've always had more 5 stars and 4 stars than negative reviews. I've actually never gotten a written negative review before. So
Nice.
I have, what happens sometimes I'll randomly get 1 stars or 3 stars. They never say anything. So there's nothing I can actually, do to utilize that critique. And also, I think, especially very often publishing is that the books that I wouldn't expect to do well are the ones that will do the best. And I'm still very surprised by some of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I found that throughout my career too, whether it's podcast episodes or blogs that I've written and stuff like that, is you can't really ever predict the one that's going to catch on. A lot of times you think that it's going to be the ones that are popular and that everybody likes, but I found that market is so crowded, then it's really hard for something to go viral because there's 1,000 other things just like it. But when I release a really weird episode with a puppeteer, or I wrote a blog post about urinals, bathroom cakes, and stuff, and it went viral, it's still in the top like 5-10 years later in Google. And it's so weird. You're like, why would anybody ever find that interesting? But it's always the niche ones that are crazy. And now I wanted to ask you a little bit about the personality style, because you seem fairly outgoing and fun, and you like the publicity. And if you're doing TikTok and stuff, I'm sure that you're really not that introverted or shy, but typically people are right or read a lot or spend that much time are the opposite style. Do you feel like you're one or the either, or just both?
It depends. I'm definitely I think more introverted, at least in person. Online, I'm not. When I'm talking about my books, I'm definitely not either. But yeah, it's I sometimes write my characters how I would write a version of myself. And then those characters are definitely more introverted.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've also described myself sometimes as either I think they're called ambiverts, but an introverted extrovert. So I do a podcast, which is really me in my room by myself. I'm not in mixing it up in like a cocktail party of a whole bunch of people. There's a pretty safe distance and separation between you and I and me and the audience and stuff. And I found a lot of radio personalities were that way, that they're really funny and entertaining, but they're introverted people that work, by themselves best and stuff. So I think that's interesting. Sometimes it's not one or the other, or different skills come out in different situations. And it's great. My next question for you was going to be what you would say for adults. I think you're right at the age where you start to grow up and people start asking you what you're going to do for a living or where you're going to go for college and things like that. And it's like, I feel like adults ask kids that because they still don't know the answers and they're hoping you came up with a good answer that they can steal. But adults feel a lot of pressure, I think, when publishing or shipping creative work that stops them from doing it. Since you got started, kind of just in time, what would you say to other people that are thinking about writing a novel or thinking about publishing stuff or going on TikTok, but they're scared to do so?
Honestly, do it. Don't think about how your writing is or how it sounds. Write the whole story out and then worry about that after. I've had some books where I've just completely written it out, and then after I've taken one look at the writing style and been like, oh gosh, this is horrible. The writing style is actually not that bad. I'm hard on myself. I think just do it. If I can do it, then you can too.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for everybody. And now I wanted to flip the question and say for kids or young adults your age, that's also a time to be, where people start being self-conscious and stuff. And I feel like you always feel like you're not quite ready or you're not old enough or people don't respect you for your age. So how have you approached or how have you seen reactions from people when you're publishing stuff at 14 and having adults read it something the other way?
People are usually pretty surprised. They're like, wait, no, you can't be 14. You have to be in your 20s. It's like, no, I'm 14. And I think the first thing people do is a lot of people at least have thrown like accusations like, you're pretending to be 14. You're not 14. No, I'm really 14. I can tell you my birth certificate. But I think generally, at least a lot of teenagers immediately think, I'm a kid. I can't write well. I need to wait till I'm older. Except, you can be older and you still can't write well. So why can't you write well now?
Yeah, I think that's true. The other thing I was going to say is the only way to become a better writer is to write poorly. There's no magical thing where you go from bad writer to good writer with the snap of a fingers without going through that slog of writing bad stuff. So I've heard a lot of authors talk about writing an ugly first draft or the power of the editing process and stuff in that. I always tell people with the podcast, the other show that I do, the How to Succeed podcast, we heavily edit that one and produce it. And so I often have guests come on and before we hit record, they'll go, I listened to some of your episodes and I got to be honest with you. I'm feeling imposter syndrome. I don't think I'm going to be as good as your other guests. And I tell them they weren't as good as that either. We cut out all the ums and ahs and the awkward pauses and the dumb stuff that they said. Some guests I've asked one question and they talked for like 20 minutes and I had to go back and edit in other questions and sort their stories around so that it made a coherent episode. And I think that's the part that people missed. Really powerful lesson.
You froze for a moment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I saw you cut out too. So hopefully we're still going, but it does say my connection's unstable. So we'll figure that out. Okay. I wanted to ask you about surprises in the process. I'm sure you've done a ton of learning over the last year. What were some things that surprised you?
So I think despite splitting Biomlock into a trilogy, I had one book that over the summer I wrote it just to write it. I didn't even, at one point I didn't want to publish it. It had been on my mind for about a year and a half maybe, and I'd been writing these first chapters of it, different versions of the story, different styles, different ways to tell it. So I ended up finishing it. I wrote it entirely in poetry, and I published it with a old, like really bad cover that I had designed. I, put it out there to do it, made an Instagram post, and it blew up. And then I started marketing it after. And as of a few months later, it is my most successful book. And it has a new cover. I replaced the cover.
You won't know her name. So check that out by Shanti Hershenson, or find it at shantihershenson.com. I'll do the shameless plug for you there, Shanti. Um, Tell me what blowing up looks like in your world. How did you know it was a success, and what happened from there?
So I kind of knew things were starting to go well the day before it released when, I started noticing some people were buying it. Some people were finding it from my social media and stuff. And a day before it released, it was a #1 new release in teen and young adult poetry a day before. And it wasn't even
Wow.
out yet. I hadn't even announced it yet. And it was already starting to gain a little sales. The next day, it had a few sales as usual. And I actually put it up on a newsletter for cheaper books because I had priced the ebook at 99 cents. And that was another really important factor of it, is that the book was cheaper, because from the start, this book, because of the topics in it, because I didn't really feel like this was a book that could do better helping others. I just wanted to donate all the money I got. And because of that, the book is priced really low. It still is. And so it was on bargain newsletters, and those, brought in 10 sales. It wasn't too big. And then I think around that time also, I started making TikToks about it too. Those TikToks blew up. First TikTok I ever made has about 20,000 views. Another TikTok I made about this book has about 60,000 views. And those were all getting generating sales. And I think I have another one. I have a whole video that has like 200,000 views, but you won't know her name's only in it for like a few seconds, so it's not that as like big of a thing to drive sales. But I think the biggest part was a little over a month after it released, I did my back to school sale. And that back to school sale consisted of You Won't Know Her Name, Buy Unlock, and then one of my other books, Style of the Lame. And those 3 books together had about, because the book was, all the 3 of those books were marked as free, and anyone could really get them, but it's really hard to get your books out because not millions, probably 100,000 books are all free. And altogether they sold about 4,000 copies, but approximately half of all the books sold were of You Won't Know Her Name. And that put it in the right direction.
That's really cool. That's awesome. And 2000 is a really good a book for sure. I think people expect to sell tens of thousands of copies or 1 million copies or something. And a lot of books just don't do that these days, unless you're Obama or somebody like that. You're not gonna release that much. That's a really really successful book. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Now I wanted to ask you did mention donating it to charity. I wanted to ask you about money, because I think a lot of people have a misconception. You're cool at your age because you don't have very high overhead. So you don't have a mortgage to pay or other things. You can save or reinvest all of the money that you're making, I'm guessing. But I think people have a weird idea that for me to be a writer, I have to make $100,000 a year, or I have to be a huge success in order to do this. How do you think about the money that you're making? Are you trying to make this your full-time career? Is it hobby money? Are you saving for college? What's your thought? And I love your charity. Tell us about that too.
So right now, the money I make, I'm like putting it better and turning around and reinvesting into marketing. I don't make much because right now, this is going to stay the same until I'm about 16. Then I'm going to actually start looking at traditional publishing, and I'm going to start looking at, I'm going to have to price my books higher. But all my books are priced at a decently lower price than they should be. You Won't Know Her Name, the ebook is free. The paperback's $9.
Nice.
The Accidental Insurgent is like $2.99 for the ebook. It used to be 99 cents. I'd turn it up. It's like $14 for the paperback. And like all of these books, I'm pricing them as low as I can, but not too low, because it's all to build like a platform.
Yeah.
And if I can build a platform now, when I'm 16, I'm releasing a book, then all those people are going to go buy it. And then I won't have to like work nearly as hard, and I won't have to sell nearly as much. I'm also relying on having a lot of books out then, because the more books I have out, just need to sell like 1 per day, and say I have like 20 books out by then I will be able to like sell 20 books a day.
Yeah, I think when people read one, they want to read more from that author whenever they like something. So it definitely helps to build a catalog over time. That seems like a really smart, savvy thing. Is that something you discovered yourself? Because I gave my first book away for free too, and it had like 80,000 downloads, and it was one of the best things that I've done for my career. You can still get it for free, LinkedIn, the Sandler way. Um, but where'd you come up with that, or how are you learning the promotion side of things?
My writing coach taught me how to make them free. There are a lot of really cool things you can do with free books. I didn't know about any of them. I just knew you put a book on Amazon and you tell people about it, and then you sell books. That's not what happened. I don't know how. The first book I ever published was something I did in 6th grade, and it's really short and it's really bad. Don't buy it. But I sold like 30 copies of that book. I don't know how I did. And
Yeah.
I am still terrified that some of those people are randomly going to message me and be like, I read your book. It was horrible. And it's like, well, yeah, I wrote it in 6th grade. It's pretty bad. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Now, so tell me about the coach process. How did you find a coach, and when did you realize that you needed one, or could afford one, or how you worked out that deal?
I think I'm trying to remember. That was a year ago now.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, I need help writing. I need to do a writing class. I need someone to teach me. I need something, or I'm not going to get very far. And then my dad found me someone. But yeah, I got to a point. It was the November 2020, something like that. I was 40,000, 60,000 words into Biomlock, something like that. And I was like, I can't do this anymore without help. It's like I was starting to realize, because early on in that book, my writing style was awful. It was very flat. It was very not realistic. The dialogue was horrible. And the characters were cheerful even when they shouldn't have been. And I needed help with that because I was just freaking out for a while. I was like, I don't know what to do from this point on. And yeah, solved the problem pretty quickly. And
awesome. That sounds great, and really really smart. I think you've done a lot of really cool and smart things in your career already, which is just so impressive. What is, and the last question for you here, what's your like bucket list dream? What does it look like long term for you? You mentioned, when you get older, traditional publishing and stuff. And what's on your bucket list? What would you like it to be in an ideal world?
I want to make a deal with a traditional publisher. Because that can help me sell more copies. I want to do a book signing, but that is more of an immediate this year thing. I'm going back to my hometown this weekend because there's bookstores there that I'm actually in communication with, and I'm going to drop off this copy. I have 5 of these hardcovers. So I actually shouldn't be touching this one because that's going to a bookstore. And so definitely a book signing. I'm trying to think. I have like yearly goals for how many books I want to have by the end of the year. I have 14 right now. I need the same age as me. I want like 20 by the time I turn 15. I like have this whole process. I want to do a TED Talk, actually. That was something I've been talking about. I have multiple topics on like ones I could do. I just don't know which one's good. So I gotta like plan it all out and test multiple different like speeches and stuff. One of my really big goals is I want one of my books to be turned into a movie or TV show or play or something like that.
I was gonna ask you about that. I said one last question, and then I had like 2 more, because you mentioned you're a Star Wars fan, and obviously with sci-fi that fits all of that. I think that's definitely a cool dream. Even with like The Martian is a great example of an independent writer getting something picked up as a movie that turns into something really cool. I think that would be great as well. That's a cool dream to have. I was gonna squeeze in one more question, which is, you write a lot. How much do you spend writing a week, and what does your weekly schedule look like?
So it usually how much I write varies per book, but it's always now that I have school, it was more wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning. That's really late. Go have something for breakfast. And then actually it's more wake up at 10 and start writing at 11, write 500 words. Then later in the day, write another 500. And for most of my books, I would do 1,000 words a day. And that would have a first draft done in like 2 months. It was really sweet.
Yeah.
But there have been books where I've exceeded that. Especially over the summer, I do 2,000 words per day. The one I'm working on right now, I have school and I have to edit a different novel, but I am doing 2,000 words a day, or I'm trying at least. I'm probably gonna have to ease back into 1,000. Um, except there's one book I completely took that in a different direction, and I was doing 4,000 to 5,000 words a day, sometimes 3,000 when I was tired. And that book is The Accidental Insurgent. This is a 350-page novel. I completed the first draft in 16 days.
Wow, that's amazing too. I think that's a cool thing about fiction, but I think a lot of people that write a book think it has to take years and stuff to do it. And you can get a manuscript cranked out in a couple of weeks. I did that with my book too. We were kind of writing like a chapter a week or so. And then LinkedIn themselves called me about the book, and they were like, hey, if you can have it done by August 15th, we'll publish it out to everybody. And I was like, oh, I guess I better write. So I just started cranking out chapters. So the first 3 chapters took like, I don't know, roughly 3 months. And then it took 3 weeks to write the next 10 in the book and get it out. So I think that's a really cool lesson for everybody. And I appreciate you sharing your story and getting to meet you. But we have one last thing. Do you want to play a game?
Sure.
All right, we're going to spin our prize wheel. There are 10 games that it could land on, and you got the movie trivia for you here today. So I have 3 questions. You get 2 out of 3. You win the game. First question is, name an animated movie that wasn't made by Disney.
My Neighbor Totoro. Does that count? It's an animated movie.
Sure. Yeah. I think that counts. If we're looking for like top answers. People say like Ants, Toy Story, Up, or Minions on those. Name a movie that involves time travel. Famous movie that involves time travel.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. My parents forced me to watch it.
Yes. You have good parents. I just watched their latest one. Not a great movie, but it's still as fun as I remembered. That's a good one. Time Traveler's Wife, Back to the Future, and The Time Machine also in the top answers. All right, last one. Name an actor famous for his sci-fi movies.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill, number 2, Harrison Ford, number 1, both in Star Wars. William Shatner, Robert Downey Jr. for Iron Man, and Chris Pine made the top of the list. You were 3 for 3. So you win a free 30-second commercial here. Any asks or gives for the audience? How can we help you?
I'd say go to my website, check out my books. If you have, Kindle, some of the books are free. You Won't Know Her Name, which is my most popular book, is free. Actually, it's technically my second most popular book. The Nightmare of Zald's Lane is supposed to be free. It keeps changing for some reason. I've been talking to Amazon. They keep changing it back to not free and then free again. So just keep checking up on that one, and you'll probably find it free. If not, the ebook's $2.99. So
yeah. That's awesome. Amazon's trying to make that money off you for sure. Yeah, they got to pay for those drones and flights to space. Shanti Hershenson at shantihershenson.com. Go check her out. 14 books at 14 years old is an amazing goal and accomplishment. So thanks again for being here. If you're looking for more information on Playful Humans and other ideas and inspirations to be more playful and creative in your life, find connections with other people, go to playfulhumans.com. Share this episode with somebody that you think needs to hear it. If you know somebody that's aspiring novelist, send it out your way, or somebody that wants to do something awesome at a young age, I recommend following Shanti's lead there. Have a good one.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine.